We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230, KGEO, 1410, KERI, 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and 3 times a week on the Internet nationwide. Our guest by phone, the Hollywood reporter, James Hirsen on Hollywood, talking about Sony and North Korea and the cyber attacks. So, James, I wanted to take it a little different direction here. When I was doing a little research for the show this morning, I noticed that the NSA is worried about hackers, and I guess they met in front of Congress, the director, and he was saying it's not if, it's when. And we had a gentleman on about a year ago talking about this, about the fact that hackers could shut down American utilities, they could shut down the power grid, and they know it's Chinese government hackers, and yet we're still allowing this stuff to go on. And I mean, the fact that the North Koreans could get into Sony so easily, I guess one of the things that I think you talked about in your article is they flashed on the screen on Sony's computers, if you don't stop this, we're going to release secret data if demands are not met. I mean, the fact that they can do that on Sony's computers, I mean, this is a little scary that they can hack into us that easily.
Oh, it is, and as I said, it's an act of war. It's the equivalent of a bomb. They shut down this major studio. There's only 6 big studios in Hollywood that control most of the entertainment content that we see. Sony's a powerhouse, big company, and presumably their IT department does put up some kind of firewall protection. They don't just leave it open. So there were things that were obstacles that these hackers knocked down. And the fact is, it is a national security thing. I'm sure that there are people from the U.S. government, trained people, good people, who are consulting with Sony right now, because this was an act, allegedly, and it appears almost certain, of a government, a belligerent, dangerous government. And so, yeah, it does. It's something, in our future. It's one of those things that I believe it's true. It's not if, it's when. It's too clean and easy. There's too many people that have expertise in it. We have the most talented people in the world in this subject, and, the administration right now has big ties to Silicon Valley. I think, that's got to be a major priority of our country's national security, to be able to start with protecting, the most serious strategic part of our country. You mentioned the power grid. Obviously, meant our military computer networks have to have layers and layers of protection. And then from there, I think our private sector as well, because that's part of our power grid. It also is part of what we rely on every day. I mean, you remember in the Y2K scare, what we were worried about is massive power outages. Well, the right kind of cyber attack could create those power outages. And if you have hackers who are available for hire, just to give an example, we talk about ISIS and we think of, ISIS, they're far away and all this, and they're amassing a fortune. ISIS is bringing in, there are estimates that they have control of billions with a B. And there are hackers who are like hitmen. You can hire them. And so for ISIS to hire hackers and have cyber terror, is that beyond the realm of possibility? Of course not. And so this is something that, every company, it's going to be a growth industry for people that are looking for careers. This is a great direction to go in.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was an industry survey that I saw that said, excuse me, they anticipate more cyber attacks, but they're going to get them at banks, healthcare, and the energy sector in the next decade. And that's frightening as well. Sure.
Oh, gosh. You think about, obviously energy, we talked about the power grid, but you think about healthcare, you think about our hospitals. That means death. This is, it's a huge, huge area, and everybody who's in IT is aware of it. but I guess you can't create, a heightened awareness enough. By the way, in Hollywood, it's affecting the business world. It's the talk of the town. This is the talk right now going on among executives that I know. And, the thing they're discussing how they have to beef up their security because, obviously, if they want to maintain any notion of freedom of expression, you can't, even though they do kowtow to China, no pun intended, they cannot let these, thugs from overseas tell them, hey, if you put out something that we don't like, we're going to take down your computers. And that could extend to a lot of different groups, so they've got to do that. They also discovered the agents in Hollywood are freaking out because the salaries were disclosed of Seth Rogen and James Franco.
Wow.
And get this, Seth Rogen, the stoner, he got $8.4 million for this movie.
Wow.
Which is like a B movie, really. It's just a silly comedy. James Franco got $6.5 million. Now, that's not his sole compensation. That's just his upfront money. And, gosh, who knew? The James Franco one really blows my mind because Seth Rogen, you could argue, he's sort of a theater magnet because people think he's funny. But James Franco's sort of semi-faded, and he's kind of an underground star now. But for him to make that kind of money, wow.
Well, and it's going to be worth it now because all the publicity that they're going to get. We're having a conversation with James Hirsen about the Sony and the cyber attacks from North Korea. James, another subject on the same line here. You were talking about, I guess the interview is coming out Christmas Day?
Yes.
Okay. And you were talking about American Sniper. You had an article coming out about that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
The reason there is a whole host. Now, the interview is not a Christmas movie per se. And there are a whole host of movies all coming out on the same day, on Christmas Day. Movies that probably most of them you never heard of. A movie called Unbroken, which is Angelina Jolie's directorial debut. The Imitation Game, Big Eyes, Into the Woods, and American Sniper. All these movies have in common is they're Oscar bait movies.
Right.
The studios have decided these are movies we want to compete, and in order to compete in the Oscars, the rules require that a movie is released with enough time to display it on theater screens for 1 week prior to the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, the last day to release is Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Lovely.
And by the way, so American Sniper is a really good movie. I've seen outtakes and pieces of it. It just looks awesome. And it's whatever people say about Clint Eastwood, I mean, I know he's in his 80s and everything. The guy just oozes talent. He's an incredible director. And this is real super Oscar-worthy stuff. And it's about a great, incredible American, Chris Kyle, U.S. Navy SEAL, who God blessed with the ability to shoot a rifle like no one else ever in the history of the United States. Most accurate, most lethal, most effective sniper ever. And he earned a nickname. They called him just Legend, I think was his name, and was targeted by every terrorist group in the Middle East. They wanted him dead. Ironically, of course, he died in an accident at a shooting range.
Right.
But it's a fascinating subject matter, and it celebrates something very important to our national security, the ability to be effective as a soldier. However, the 6,000 members of the Academy are generally liberal and generally left of center. And I went through, for me, what was a very upsetting situation with the Oscars in 2000. they took place in 2009 for the film that Clint Eastwood had, Gran Torino, which was another brilliant movie. Critics loved it. People loved it. It won all these pre-Oscar awards, and it received 0 nominations, none. Even liberals were shocked, and it was a clear, biased snub.
It's a great movie.
I mean, it's a great movie. So this may be the, they always say this about Clint because he keeps living, but this guy, it could be the last time the industry, gets a chance to honor him. You can't honor him enough.
Before we go, I wanted to make a public service announcement that for anybody who would like to see these movies before Christmas, go on the internet.
James, we're going to have to leave it at that. It's we've really enjoyed having you on the number of times we've had you on, and again, Hirsen on Hollywood. I highly recommend the website. And again, thanks for coming on, James.
Always interesting. Always.
Well, Marty and Clay, have a wonderful day.
You have a great holiday.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.